Jeff Monosso is joining us from Fox Radio here in just a minute, and we're going to talk a little bit more, find out some more facts about everything happening in these two terrorist attacks. Jeff Monosso on the phone with us. Jeff, thanks for being here.
You got it. Good to be with you.
So we're watching this live report right now happening from Las Vegas about that terrorist attack. Apparently, Elon Musk very much involved in the information gathering there. Is that right?
Perhaps what this suspect didn't realize is that those trucks are basically those vehicles, Tesla vehicles. I mean, they're constantly rolling on footage. They've got cameras all over the place, and so every time this guy would have recharged it, and perhaps other situations, it's on tape, it's on film. And anything having to do with his trek from Colorado to Las Vegas is information that Tesla has that he's been sharing with these investigators who we don't know what they're saying just yet, but right now, it obviously is a terror investigation that coincidentally happened at the same time, essentially, or just hours after the New Orleans attack. Now, what we're told is at this point there is no connection between the two, although you talk to a lot of smart people and they'll tell you there's no such thing as coincidence. But we've also learned this morning that there were reports that these two knew each other, that they'd served together, but the latest is that there really is no evidence that from their military service to make a connection. Both the New Orleans terrorist and this guy in Vegas, they served at formerly Fort Bragg, but there was at different times. And for context, there's more than 50,000 U.S. service members currently stationed there. But the investigation is ongoing. The latest really right now is I can tell you that Bourbon Street, after the carnage was cleared and it's been cleaned up, it has just reopened. They had a band marching down. Sounded very much like quintessential Bourbon Street. And this is less than 48 hours after so much death and destruction and that terrorist attack that left 14 people dead, plus the gunman, and dozens injured. The investigation is ongoing, but what's weird is that after initially saying that the attack was not a terrorist event and then saying it was, that there were other suspects, the FBI now says it was not, or at least the terror suspect acted alone and on behalf of ISIS, for which there was an ISIS flag on the back of his vehicle, that he was radicalized, left videos behind. So it's still a fluid situation. They are still searching a nearby property in New Orleans, looking for potential evidence. I know that they've secured laptops and phones. They're obviously going through the data, through surveillance video. They've searched the suspect's home in Houston. That's now been cleared. The suspect in Las Vegas, his home has been searched, and we're just getting the word that the yellow police tape is being taken down and that area is being cleared. So still so many moving parts and so many questions, but this is the day where now we're starting to see the images and of the people and the names of the people affected by this and those killed and injured, and it's pretty heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah, it's a strange way to say Happy New Year is to see news like this happen in multiple places across the country. Jeff Monosso, Fox News Radio, on the phone with us. You mentioned the FBI statements. I was actually going to ask you a little bit more about that. You've covered a lot of events where officials come out and they make official statements to the press. We were talking about this in the first hour here about an hour ago. It seems strange that the FBI would come out and make such definitive statements about these things so early. Is that par for the course?
There was a couple of strange things. First of all, I'll say this: for the FBI, I think that it was based off of information that several individuals left behind improvised explosive devices on Bourbon Street, and two were found, but the FBI now says they were actually placed there by this suspect earlier. And they were in coolers, and so people would pass by and stop and look at them, and perhaps that was it. I'm not going to speak for them. But they did, in fact, say that he was the person who actually put them there. But what was interesting early on yesterday, almost right away, they were able to identify him, and they admitted that, in fact, yes, people on X, users on X, were absolutely right that there was an ISIS flag there. I thought that it was information that they would suppress, knowing typical FBI and how they've dealt with the press over the last several some odd years, but they came out with it and told us what we already knew hours earlier from X. And there is something to be said about what Elon says and how X seems to be first a lot of times in terms of news. But people were demanding answers, and they got them yesterday. But this is an investigation that is nationwide. Obviously, things right away are going to be reported that may not be accurate. That's typical in stories that move so fast as these and that are as big as these, like the truck, the information about it crossing the U.S.-Mexican border. It was a rental truck, and it was pinged to Eagle Pass several times, which may indicate a connection to human smuggling, but that the driver, the suspect, wasn't necessarily the driver at that point. But the investigation is ongoing, and safety is at the forefront now, and especially in New Orleans, where the Sugar Bowl is about to get underway, where a national security event like the Super Bowl is set to take place in a matter of weeks, and where we've already heard from not only local, state, and federal partners that security will be upgraded even more so following this attack.
Jeff, it's been a day and a half now, so still, pretty new stories here. But are they looking? Especially the guy in Las Vegas. He's driving a Tesla. He parks outside of Trump Tower, clearly making some sort of statement. Are they looking for any manifesto or some sort of message that this guy was trying to send?
Yeah, I mean, there's already some reports that I haven't verified, so I'm not going to talk about it in terms of politics and his relationship to that stuff. I haven't verified it. Those things go, but yeah, I mean, it's probably not a mistake that it was a Tesla truck, and perhaps that it was outside of a Trump hotel in Vegas, which, by the way, didn't receive a scratch based on
That's incredible.
How strong that Tesla truck was. But, maybe it was a situation where you thought it was an electric truck, and obviously they burn at a really high rate, do a lot of damage, in addition to the explosives, the gasoline, other canisters, gas canisters, and fireworks that were on board in the back of that truck. But he was the only one to die. And so, yes, that's what they're looking for, computers and cell phones. They're looking for the digital footprint of these individuals in, the past conversations, texts, communications, what they were searching for online, and any affiliation with potentially anybody else involved. But right now we're told, at least in the case of New Orleans, that he acted alone. We'll have to wait and see.
Jeff Monosso, last question for you. We're seeing reports that both of these guys happened to rent their vehicles from Turo, which is, not the most common. I've used it, but I know most people haven't. And then reports that they at least the guy in New Orleans had to drive pretty far from where he got the car. Is there any is there any connection with where did they both happen to pick him up similarly, like places, or with just both through Turo?
So this is exactly the point. This is why, I'm not even a sick conspiracy theorist. I think just people in general are going to stop and say, wait a minute. It's the same app, Turo, that these vehicles were rented from. They both served at Fort Bragg, or now it's Fort Liberty now. But the military is saying, there was no overlap in their assignments there, so they weren't there together. But there's a lot of coincidence, and it also happened to be on the same day. You know what I know, my friend, and we're trying to dig up and confirm, any other details that we get. But right now, this is what the FBI, the ATF, even the White House are saying. The investigation is obviously ongoing. Numerous resources are being poured into both of these situations. Of course, Donald Trump, who enters office in about 18 days, has something else to say, and he's been pretty vocal on his Truth Social blasting the current administration in terms of the safety failures that he alleges under this current administration. And so that's a battle that's going to continue as well. This will probably leak into politics, as most stories do. But the bottom line is, 14 people are dead, and many are fighting for their lives. And New Orleans is trying to do what it does and getting back to normal so quickly, with still so many questions to be answered about exactly who these people were. How the heck did they get radicalized as former army soldiers? The story behind that, and there's a lot more digging to do.
Right. Yeah, Jeff Monosso, thank you so much for keeping a vigilant eye on it and reporting back to us. Fox News Radio. Jeff Monosso, appreciate your time.
You bet.